yeah, so then we went down, just kind of traveled over the U.S. doing the haunted locations, which is kind of where I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'd love to get my own place, to allow people in and just kind of do the same thing. So then that happened in 2018, when I got the first location, the Boyd House.
Right.
And then in 2020, time goes by, at 23, I believe, is when I purchased the Masonic Lodge.
Okay.
So
Well, hey everybody, welcome back.
Hey, everybody.
I'm Logan,
And I'm Nicole.
and this is Generation X Paranormal. So don't adjust your sets, guys. Nobody would even know what that means anymore. The old days you had TV sets where you had to
Pulling out the
adjust.
Generation X right
Well,
now.
yeah, I mean it is what we are. The old days. I sound like
It
an old
is
man.
what we are.
Back when it was my day. So you would have these TV sets, and you controlled Anyway, long story short, this is a soft rebrand. We're still Generation X Paranormal and everything, but when we started the show, we always wanted our image to be a portal, and I think it took us a while to kind of get to the part where we're like, okay, we like that. So you are seeing the fruits of that labor.
The fruits.
The fruits. But anyway, guys, we got a fun show. We're going to be talking to Jill Shelley. So what can you tell us about Jill?
So Jill Shelley is the owner of two haunted locations, the Boyd House in Minnesota and a Masonic Lodge in Illinois.
Okay.
She's been a paranormal investigator for 12 years, and she's part of the team of St. Croix Paranormal.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, again, I've always thought to myself, I'd love to own a haunted place, but to
Oh, I
own.
totally want to
Oh,
own a
yeah.
haunted place.
Well, technically, we kind of do now, but
We
you
always
know,
live in them, but we
right?
haven't really owned,
That's
like,
true.
I want an old Victorian
I know you do.
home. That's what
If
I
we ever
want.
get millions and millions of dollars, we'll do it.
I know.
But other than that, hey, I can't wait to talk to Jill.
I want the practical magic house. That's what I want.
Yeah, we can't afford the practical magic. It would take practical money, and we don't have that.
Every woman that ever loved that movie wants that house, by the way.
Right, so you can bury me in the in the flower garden.
No, not unless you're evil.
Me evil. Anyway, guys, we can't wait to talk to Jill. Let's bring her
Let's
on.
talk to Jill.
Well, hey Jill, how you doing?
good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me out this evening.
We're doing great.
Oh,
Welcome to
good.
Generation X Paranormal. Um, it's funny because I've often asked. Now we're going to get into a whole lot of stuff, but I've often asked myself if I was ever in the position to purchase a haunted anything, would I do it? The answer probably is yes. But you did two of them, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. you know, obviously Stephanie, she's got one, and if you guys know who she is, you know who she is. But yeah, it's interesting to have somebody that's purchased too. And we're gonna get into it. I thought I'd mention that because you're pretty unique for us anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of an obsession. You start with
Yeah.
one, then you just got to have more.
It's like tattoos. You get
Yes.
one, you gotta get more. But so anyway, aside from the places that you own, you started paranormal investigation a long time ago. So if you could, I don't know, just kind of bring our audience up to speed and kind of how you got started. Tell us a little bit about the group that you're in at St. Croix, correct?
Yeah, St. Croix Paranormal. Yeah.
Yep, St. Croix Paranormal. Yeah, just kind of give our audience a once over. What got you to this point?
Yeah, I've always kind of been one of them weird kids. I always like ghost stories and spooky things and just kind of weird. My cousins, I remember we would just like listen to ghost stories in the middle of the night, stay up and freak each other out. But it was just always kind of fun. But my first experience was actually at my grandma's house. She particularly had a room that I never really liked. Like it was always cold. You always felt unwelcome. I always felt like somebody was staring through the closet at me. And she didn't have like a closet door. She just had like a curtain
Oh,
over it.
yeah.
So I
Oh
always just
yeah.
felt like somebody was behind me. But one particular night, I was sleeping upstairs, not in that room, but in a room down the hall. And I woke up and I heard footsteps coming out of that room and stopped at my bedroom. And I had my back to the door and I felt like something was literally staring through me. Like, when you feel like somebody's watching you.
Oh
But as a
yeah.
Mhm.
child, I'm like, I am not turning around. I just kind of put the
Right.
blankets over my head, and then you just heard the footsteps turn around, walk the other way. Mentioned it in the morning. My grandmother sleeps downstairs, so 100% not her. And my parents were both sleeping in the other room, and I could hear both snoring and moving around and such. So I knew that it was not them. So, but my grandma just nonchalantly like, "Oh my gosh, honey, that's just a ghost and he's not gonna hurt you."
Oh
I
my
was like,
goodness.
"What? She's just blown off, like no big deal."
Yeah,
I think that kind of fueled my passion a little bit more. Like now I really want to know more about them. So
Mhm.
just kind of doing that studying and reading and watching movies and things. I didn't have internet back in the day. I'm in from the
Oh
dinosaur
yeah.
ages and stuff. So so
Us
we
too.
just yeah, we
That's
just
why we're named Generation X Paranormal.
So yeah, with the advent of the TVs coming out, then you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is a thing." Like I didn't know you could really do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and then I met a guy at work who was he actually was doing a little bit of investigating on his own. He wasn't part of a team or anything. So we just kind of started going out and doing things. Just investigating local bars and businesses and just places in town. And then that migrated over to go to the I call it the pay to play places.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of started with that. So we just started with us two, and then we kind of migrated. I think we had up to 8 people one time, but it's still been kind of a core four of us. That have
Mhm.
always just kind of stuck since it was like 2010 is when we actually formed the St. Croix Paranormal Group.
Wow. Yeah. It's
Okay.
quite a bit
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
So then we went down, just kind of travel over the US doing the haunted locations, which is kind of where I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'd love to get my own place, to allow people in and just kind of do the same thing. So that happened in 2018, when I got the first location, the Boyd House.
Right.
And then in 2020, time goes by, at 23, I believe, is when I purchased the Masonic Lodge.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, we've gone, and I know you've traveled all over the place, and we're sort of in that vein too, where we go to different places. A lot of it's been local at the moment, but and no, actually, we did Arizona and a few other places, but
Mhm.
um, you're right. I think when you go to some of these places, you often say, kind of like I did at the beginning, man, I'd really like to own one of these.
Mm.
But of course, most of the time, a paranormal hotspot is either condemned or it's falling apart or all the above. And you're like, it would take a beggar's fortune to get anywhere near people being able to come in this place. So,
Right.
that's wild. So, okay, let's get into the salt and pepper of things. You purchased, and we're going to get to the Boyd House because I think the Boyd House it's certainly not it's known. It's an established place. Everybody knows, most people that are in this know the Boyd House for the most part. But that's not the case with the Masonic Lodge. Now you had mentioned you purchased that in 2023. Had there already been sort of, I guess basically, is this greenfield, like this is the first time people have investigated it?
As far as I know, I don't think anybody previously has investigated. So I would like to say I was the first one there. I just kind of got a feel for it. Uh, I wouldn't say that I'm psychic or anything, but I do get the feels for like when we're at locations or just certain feels. When I was just scrolling through bigger properties to look for, it just popped my eye, and I was like, I had to have it. Like I knew this was the building. Went and took a look at it. It was in real good shape, but also we got a couple really good EVPs. Like one of them was "I'm watching you,"
Mm,
and then we
Mm.
also got a child that said "body," and I was like, "Well, first of all, that's weird, but why is there a kid there? This is a Masonic Lodge, right? So why
right.
Right.
would there be children here?" But now that I own it and I found out some more information, it actually was the Arlington Hotel. and it was the Arlington Hotel in the 1889, I believe it was. So or maybe it was before that, but it was before the 1861 is when it was first built. So that's when the hotel was.
Hmm.
I was also found out it was a brothel as well. So there was
Oh,
a lot of stuff that was going on there.
Yeah.
And then it didn't become the Masonic Lodge until the 1900s. So it's
okay.
still really just a lot. It was I believe, the third building erected in that town as
Hmm.
well. So just
That's
a
a lot
lot
of
of history
history.
that, yeah, that, I mean, we're still
Hmm.
learning a lot of stuff. You can only, you know, get the tip of the iceberg. Like when we go to, the town of Keysburg actually has a museum that the mayor has put together, Sharon Reason. She's done a phenomenal job on it. But when I walked in there, there's so many books and so many things to go through.
Yeah.
Like I would be there for days and days. But so
Hmm.
just the few hours I spent there just finding that information, that was incredible to find that as well. And that's just the local town. We've gone to like the bigger places where they have more information, and
Hmm.
not
Right.
really finding a whole lot, just because they didn't keep really good records back then. But it's really interesting to be and uncovering some of the things that we have been finding. Like the Masons had like one of the first world's largest picnics. They had like over 100 people. They came from everywhere.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
it was kind of interesting to just see all that.
Hmm.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
it's in Illinois, correct?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
I'm not good on the geography because I don't live in Illinois, so
Right.
Right.
I'm always like, it's kinda," but yeah, it's kinda like, I think, more on the southern border, I would say, southern northern, if that even makes sense, but we're like 3 hours from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah. I think I kind of know I think I looked it up as we're kind of researching. It's not too far, I think, from Springfield, Illinois. It
Oh,
kind of
okay.
it's not obviously right there, but it's kind of as you're headed up towards. We've made that drive about a
To
million times to
Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago,
Yeah,
so we're somewhat familiar with it. But no, that's actually pretty close to St.
mhm.
Louis. I mean, well,
Yeah,
3 hours
it's got a nice
respectively.
location because yeah, like I said, 3 hours from St. Louis. Some places in Wisconsin, you're only 2 to 3, 4 hours. Indiana, some
Okay.
places are only 4 or 5 hours. So it's got a lot of Iowa. You can get there in 4 or 5 hours,
Nice,
depending where you're at. If you're more closer, you're like an hour away. There's some places
right?
in Iowa you're only an hour away. So depending, where you are. So it's got a nice little draw. It's centrally located.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
good.
always the thing with
I
some of the
know.
paranormal places. It's like, hey, it's really active, but you need to take 8 trains, 6 buses, 4 flights. It's gonna take you a year and a half to get there,
There's
and
nowhere to eat or
there's nowhere
nowhere
to
to
eat.
stay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sleep on a cot outside. We'll do it. Any paranormal investigator will do it, but it's always nice when there's at least something that's somewhat creature comfort close. So
Right,
that's
right.
awesome. Okay, so you'd sent us some evidence, and we went through it, and
It's interesting.
definitely
Yeah.
interesting things there. And now that you've told us it wasn't just a Masonic lodge, some of this will
Make
be
more
make better
sense.
sense,
Yeah.
right, for us. So we're gonna kind of talk evidence, sort of EVP, and kind of what you sent us, and kind of just go down. But to start off, the K2, I guess you had one on an armoire. And I don't know if your K2 is is the same as all the rest of them, or is it built into something else? But it was on an armoire, and you got to see a blip. Did you? What's the story behind that?
Well, yeah, it's just your regular typical K2 meter that everybody can buy for the
Hmm.
Hmm.
59 bucks that's out there.
Yeah.
But what I found more interesting with a lot of things with the K2 activity or any of the EMF detectors or anything that people use for EMF for investigating, this building has no power. There is no
Mm,
power in this building whatsoever. I've even gone up to like the power box. I've walked around with it. You just don't get any power residual from anything. Even if I go
right.
Okay.
close, there's an establishment next door, and you can hear their AC units kick on and off, and I'll go stand on that side of the building while they're running, and I'm not picking it up.
Mm,
So it's
Wow.
nothing even from them, but to have it sitting in, like you say, that china hutch on a
right.
piece of
Hmm.
wood, and I had just put a bunch of Masonic items that we had brought. I know some people who donated some Masonic items, so I brought them, and I was just like, "Hey, we brought these things for you, so I'm just going to put this here, and if you like it, go ahead and hit it."
Hmm.
So yeah, they've used a lot of that. They've used the EMF tripwires. It's just yeah, a lot of
That's
really
That's
good
cool.
awesome.
EMF
That
stuff.
is good information to have that, there's no
Yeah.
electricity. So, you get a baseline in there and it could be, zilch and then it actually
For it
adds a
to do
lot of,
that.
yeah, for it to
Yeah.
get some credibility. Kind of teeing off on the REM pod. And I think this might have been a millimeter because when I was looking at it by the doll, but you have a pretty good amount of activity around that doll. And there not only was there EVP, but there was also some other evidence, which we're talking about that right now. But around that doll, can you, first of all, the doll obviously isn't probably originally from the lodge, but what's the story in bringing the doll in, or was it there?
We just that was the particular I brought in things just because that was my first time investigating there after I purchased it. So I did
Uh-huh.
that mini investigation. And that's when I heard the kids, and so I brought toys with me to see if I can entice any activity as well. So I had put it down and I felt like I wanted to put it in that room.
Uh-huh.
But they're kind of everywhere. We've learned that now. So we like have a little boy upstairs named Cody with 2 E's. He was very specific about that.
Hmm.
Um, but he didn't tell me how he died, but his friend Mark lives there. And Mark died of a fever, and I'm guessing it might have been like maybe measles or something, or scarlet fever, because the way the little boy described it, he said he was hot, hot like fire, and he had sores on
Oh,
him.
yeah.
So I think that's what happened, with his friend, but Cody just never really told me while he's there, but his mother's there, we've talked to his mother, and she apologized that he's a pest, and we said he's not really, we really enjoy having him, so, so we have
Wow.
a
Wow.
pretty good communication, and when I tell these stories, it's because with the conversations is, one of our teammates, Teresa, is like the best Estes queen ever. She is phenomenal. I have never seen anybody do it like she does. Most people, I actually, you get the yes, no, sometimes a good sentence. But with her, I almost feel like they take over her and they get inside her because her whole body posture changes. Sometimes her voice almost changes a little bit different. She acts different. We have one-on-one conversations like I'm having with you. She being blindfolded and headphone and like I'll get up and she's like, "Where are you going?" Like, so how did she know that? Or
Wow.
if I yawn, she's like, "Don't, it's too early, don't yawn." So just
Wow.
little things like that, or, then I'll be like, "Well, what am I doing now?" And they're like, "You're waving your hand."
Huh.
So it's like, it's so validating with what
Mhm.
she talks. So that's how we're getting a lot of the communication, that we've learned, um, from the spirits. We've also had, there's Masons there as well. So there's people from
Sure.
actually the hotel and people from the Masonic Lodge. So it's a little gamut of everything, men, women, children. What I find very interesting is, now that I purchase it, of course, you meet the town folk, which they're great people, but they tell me ghost stories about that building all the time. So
Hmm.
Well, I'm
it's
sure
it's
they do, yeah.
really kind of fun. Like when I was first there and I was just cleaning and getting things ready, because it had been abandoned for about 10 years, nobody had been in it. One of the master masons from the town had stopped by and he introduced himself. And after we did our hi, I'm so and so, the first words out of his mouth was, "Have you seen her?" And I said, "Seen
Huh.
who?" He's like, "The woman." I go, "Well, what woman?" And he goes, "I've seen her all the time when I was here cleaning by myself or be here by myself. She wanders the halls. She's wearing white. We see her all
Mm.
the time." So and many people from the town said they have seen her through the windows. They seen her walking around. So it's kind of interesting. And another one had told me a story where they had come into the building. They walked in and there was a woman on their hands and knees scrubbing the floor. They said hello. She said hello back. They went into the kitchen, said, "Hey, who's scrubbing the floors?" And the people are like, "There's nobody scrubbing the floors." Of
Huh.
course, they go out there and there's nobody there. So, yeah, so it does have quite the history of the haunting. So,
Wow.
That's really
we're
awesome.
just learning the tip of the iceberg. For me, I'm pretty far away, so I didn't get there as much, but I have seen some of we've probably had, oh, I don't know, maybe 20 or so paranormal teams in there, and all of them had different types of different experiences. People have gotten EVPs, they've gotten touched.
Huh.
Um, they've seen shadows. Some people have seen men there. So yeah, just a whole gamut of stuff. A lot of equipment interaction, tons of equipment interaction. I think they like it.
Sure.
You know, I've had to like teach them per se how to use it, what it is. We're really receptive to it. So a lot of times they will communicate with you with a particular device and such.
That's awesome. Are you finding that a lot of it's more intelligent rather than residual, or are you looking at kind of a healthy mixture of all?
I would say a mixture of all, but I would say most of them are intelligent, you know, just
Hmm.
because, like I said, they respond directly to, I wouldn't say commands, but if you're asking, "Hey, step away," it instantly steps away, you
Okay.
know, and then if you're like, "Okay, 1, 2, 3, touch," and it will go. Um,
Okay.
so, you know, it's like they're really staying in tune, and I think, you know, because nobody's really talked to them for, gosh, forever, this is
Right.
probably super fun. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
No
be old with
kidding.
the, "How did you die?" So
Right.
it's like
That building was abandoned for 10 years. I
Right.
mean, nobody's been in there, so
Yeah.
that would make sense.
We also have an EVP Jedi that we call
Estes.
or sorry,
Estes
Estes.
Jedi.
Yeah. Hello. Whoo. But when she had long story short, she had a back-to-back Estes session with somebody else, and there were two entities talking to each other between the two that didn't even know they existed at the same place. So I
Mhm.
always find that interesting too, where maybe you run into something like that where, you know, depending on how you believe and kind of how this whole thing works, there could be several entities that don't even know there's other ones there. And through that kind of medium, that channel, they can discover it. It was a very interesting
It was. It
conversation.
was, yeah.
So yeah, it's
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that would be because I do know they interact with each other, you know,
right.
at
Mhm.
other locations and stuff. We've had that where we've done the double Estes session, and we've had 2 of them arguing with each other. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, that was kinda interesting, but yeah, so we do know, and I have asked before, and they're like, "Yeah, we meet new people over here."
Oh,
Um,
that's
so
cool.
yeah, so very interesting to find out that, yeah, you could be in that different plane where you don't know somebody's there, so that is really interesting.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
when we saw it, we're like, "Oh, wow, that's a new dimension I hadn't really thought
Mhm.
of," you know?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
one of the key pieces of evidence that I liked a lot was the podium. So you had a REM pod go off on the podium, which, you know, REM pods, you know, they're a tool just like anything else. Sometimes if you're too close with the, you know, a walkie-talkie or a phone or stuff, it can cause issues. But as you said, there's no electricity in this thing. But what I find interesting is that podium, was that original to that property?
No, we brought that in. We actually, believe it or not, found it for like $5. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
so we're like,
nice.
"That's gonna fit there real nice." So,
Yeah.
but right now,
Right.
what we have on it is an actual Masonic Bible. So we
Okay.
have
Okay.
that up there, and we have like a Masonic gavel that was given to us that was actually used during meetings. So we've
Hmm.
added things to it. So yeah, we put things up on the podium all the time. Every time I bring something new, I usually put a device by it and say, "Hey, if you like it, light it up, let me know." So
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The reason I like it is most people not even depending on the era, most people that see a podium, that's kinda that feeling to go up to it like you're gonna I mean, everybody does their Oscar acceptance speech, you know, and stuff like that. You know,
yeah,
if you're up at a podium, you're gonna talk to it whether, you know, you have an audience or not. So to get activity from it, it just kinda reminds me of thinking like a
Mhm.
ghost, like, "Hey, I'm gonna come up here and
Yeah. I'm the star of the show
yeah,
right now.
star of the show." I just found it interesting. It's just, it's really good evidence, but yeah, it's just one of those thoughts I had where, you know, they're probably up
Mhm.
there, you know, joking with each other. Speaking of joking, and this wasn't a joke, but I gotta bring it up because I had no idea how to pivot to this. So in the kitchen, um, there was a piece of evidence that you sent us, and I crack up because I would be the person that yelled in it. But
I would too.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Just because we investigate and we do it all the time, I'm scared high percentage of the time everywhere we're going. But so So in the kitchen, there was a very loud, audible bang. And by the way, we're going to add all this stuff into the episode so you guys can hear it. But yeah, can you kind of tell us? We talked a little bit before we started, but can you kind of give us some history behind the loud bang?
Yeah, it was in the kitchen. We had like our coolers of food and everything. We were all in like the main dining area, and we had, because it was cold and we had a space heater going, or a propane heater going. So we had all the doors closed. So to go out to the kitchen, she's out there by herself. So Teresa's out there making a sandwich. We're all in the other room. And all of a sudden I heard this loud bam. And my first thought was, oh my God, she dropped the cooler on the floor. That's exactly
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
thought had happened. And then she comes busting through the door, and she said, something just slammed something behind me. Well, the lodge is vacant. Like at that time, I had very minimal chairs. I didn't really have anything. So there's really nothing that's going to fall, that's going to make that sound. So in the video and the audio that I sent you, you'll hear her banging around because she's trying to get out, and she's screaming. But the first original bang, and she even joked later too, like she said, she goes, "It's not that I was scared." She's like, "It was just very startling, and my first reaction is just get out of here."
Yeah.
But we had gone back and tried to replicate it, and the only sound that we could do, even with us being in the other room, was one of the kitchen cupboards. If you took it and you slammed it, just like that,
Oh,
it made that exact smack sound. So that's
Interesting.
that's what we assumed it was. Because even then later that night, we would hear doorknobs, turning, like somebody had
yeah.
tried to
Right.
get in and
Oh,
stuff, and
that would
so
have been a force because it's loud.
Yeah, it's super
yeah.
loud, and you guys are
Uh-huh.
going to hear it. But um, I think for me, aside from wanting to force project out of my body when that happened, going back and try to replicate that, that's got to be really difficult because you're right. If it's the only thing that makes that kind of noise would be to slam it. Now we're talking. Okay, now are we poltergeist kind of here? Where are we with some of this? And that's interesting because
It
that takes
takes a
just your
lot of
well,
energy to
yeah,
do
of
something
course.
like that. Yeah.
And it takes that standard, okay, there's some activity here, and you can get some interaction, but now to kind of breach into that physicality of it, that's gonna be one of those where, hold on tight, kids.
Well, maybe they wanted a sandwich.
And maybe they did
They
want
were
to
trying to say,
sandwich.
"Make me a
Yeah,
sandwich."
right. It's been
And
10
and
years.
she wasn't paying attention. So
I've been waiting 10 years. Just want a tuna on rye. Um,
Either that, or
so
there's I don't know if she's still there, but there's a lot of things. So the lodge actually shared with the Eastern Star, which is the female version of the Masons.
okay.
So part of the lodge, it's the Robert Burns Lodge. But Mary Burns, the wife that was there for the Masonic, she was, I heard, very particular about her kitchen. You did not remove things in the kitchen. You did not do certain things in the kitchen. She actually has, like, one of those styrofoam ice buckets, and it says,
Yeah.
"Do not remove without talking to Mary Burns," written on
huh,
the bucket. So I've kept that, of course, and I've put it up there, up top, so that I know
Okay.
what to break. So it could have been Mary saying, "Hey, what are you doing in my kitchen?" kinda thing, it's hard
yeah,
to say, but interesting that, you get that type of
Mhm.
validation after. Like, these are things, like, I didn't know prior, it's just things I've learned
Right.
way,
right.
and then you're like, "Hey, maybe that's what happened?"
God, please
Wow.
don't move that thing because it would probably be detrimental to everybody.
Yeah, that's interesting
That
though. It
is
could very
very
well could
interesting.
be.
So, just kind of getting on the EVPs. The I know there was a part where someone, I don't know if it was you or not, had said, "Can you do that again?" And the EVP, which we'll play, but
Can you do that again?
yeah, what did you guys immediately hear that upon playback, or was that something you guys kind of caught later?
And most of our EVPs we've caught later,
Hmm.
which I wish at the time, maybe because we do have live listening to it, but we're always not listening to the live.
Right.
And I'm not
Yeah.
one that plays it. A lot of people do a little session and play it back. I'm one that just lets it go for the whole entire time that I'm there till I pack up or whatever.
Us too.
So I didn't hear it at the time, but just knowing, and it sounded like a child as well. So
Uh-huh.
um knowing now that children live there, and it's really kind of validating that you're getting kids' voices as well.
Yeah, it's very clear. I mean, I said to him, it's like, that's a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even with staying with the EVPs in that doll room, you get another child voice saying, "You've got dolls."
Right,
So
right, yeah, because and we had dolls there too, so they were pretty excited about that. So we've bought some more things for them that they asked for because they're pretty needy. So
well, yeah, I mean, they've been
There's
kinda
going to be a Christmas
yeah,
list.
Yep.
right. Your SS person is gonna be like, "You're not gonna believe this. They want a helmet from the San Diego Chargers that doesn't even exist anymore."
Instead of Dear Santa, it's going to be Dear Jill.
Yeah, Dear
This
Jill.
this is what I want for Christmas.
Yeah. And then, of course, I think the one kinda capping it off with some of the evidence from the Masonic Lodge was and I imagine is this a cupboard that's in the wall that's got the doors open?
Yeah, I think that was we were just using that for the filming of the thing.
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
gotcha.
yeah.
Well, that's a pretty interesting, EVP because that is also incredibly it's like Class A
Mhm.
EVP, but, You Want That Now came across, and I thought that was again, that is similar to the Can't Say I Would. It's such a clear EVP.
Yeah, we do get a lot of really good clear EVPs there, which is really nice. But you also get a lot of whispers, and I can't make it out, and then I get all depressed.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, what did they say?"
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
They
We
said
have those too.
something. So, but yeah, for a lot of them, they are like the Class A's. I usually don't have to enhance them or really do a whole lot to them.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's just really kind of it's so neat. I think right now it's so new that the spirits are actually enjoying all
Sure.
the
Mhm.
interaction with everything. We've never had anything bad or malevolent, anything like that. I think some of the touching is out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just been really kind of just a really fun place to get to know and get to know the
That's awesome.
spirits. So hopefully they'll be part of my family at some point because the spirits at the Boyd house are like my second family. So
Yes. Yeah, we're about to jump into that too, but I don't know, we may have to go check that out. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does sound like, yeah.
So, the Masonic Lodge, I think it's great. I think now knowing that there's much more history than it just being the lodge, I think that the more people investigate it, I obviously the story kind of unfolds a little bit. We've kind of been a part of that too, where you're the first few investigators in. You think it's one thing, and then as time
Becomes
goes
something.
on, it becomes something
Mhm.
entirely different.
right.
So that's great. I can't wait to hear how that kind of all unfolds. That should be a lot of fun. But yeah, the Boyd House. So the Boyd House is known. We, like I said at the beginning, there's been a lot of people have gone out there, done investigations, and this was your first. So, kind of walk us through. Like you said, you hadn't had your own place. How did this come about, and like what made you put pen to paper?
Well, yeah, again, I just was looking, my realtor knew I wanted some haunted. Well, she doesn't know anything about that. So it was up to me to tell her to book me at this place. We went and looked at several other places, did little mini investigations. But when I came across the Boyd house again, that one just stood out to me and I just almost became a little bit obsessed with it before we even went and looked at it. I just kept going through the pictures. I'm like, I really like this house. I'm really attached to this house already. Then when I went with one of my teammates, we were just waiting for the realtor to show up and I just kind of felt like something was staring at me through the window. And I kind of mentioned it to my teammate. She's like, yep, I feel it through the attic window. That's where I'm feeling. But then we went inside and you could feel something was there, but it was staying back, and again, this
Mhm.
house, nobody had lived in. Somebody had lived in it for like 30 years, I think. But they had not lived in it for a year. So nobody's been there for a whole year. So of
Okay.
course, we're new. We did get a few things on the spirit box. Like one of the first things I got was a woman saying, "Who are you?" Which makes a lot of sense because now I'm this stranger. I'm in here. I'm
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
One of our REM pods went off, within about a half hour being there. So it's just sort of real minimal things. I didn't get any EVPs, anything like that. Just kind of got the feel. So I reached out to a medium I really trust. She gave me a lot of information from her site, which a lot of things came true as I bought the house and started to learn some stuff. So a lot of things she told me had come true. But then I just thought, well, and I'm just going to ask previous owners because they've lived there, and they
Mm-hmm.
did real hesitantly talk about it. But they said that they sometimes would hear old time music playing.
Hmm.
Um, Her daughter seemed to have more interaction with the spirits than anybody else in the family, and she told me that she had seen a man in the basement a couple of times. So there was just kind of history, and again, since as you buy it, people come forward and tell you things.
Right.
Some
Mm-hmm.
people were like, "Yeah, I used to know the family. I slept over there when I was a kid, and things would like touch my feet, pull the blankets." So there is a little bit of history of what's going on there. So what we've learned about the house itself, it was built in 1901, but the main family who moved in was in like 1912, and that was the Eckhart family. And they had two of their children pass away in the home. One choked to death, and one was in infancy. They both passed away in the house, just both of strokes. And then we also had a woman in the 70s pass away, again, elderly stroke. So nothing that we personally, other than the tragic choking, know of
Mm-hmm.
any other confirmed deaths in the house. We've had several people say, "Oh yeah, there has been. It's just not on paper."
Right.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
but the town was also butted up against the Sioux Dakota reservation line.
Mm.
So there could be a lot of things with that.
Mhm.
It's a very small town now. There's really only about 150 people in town. But back in the day, it was a big booming town. There was 500 people in town. The railroad ran right through that. The tracks actually run pretty much right in our backyard. But the Eckhart owners, they owned one of the stores in town. So they owned the high ends grocery store. So they had like the fancy foods, the fur coats, the shoes, everything. But the town had like a creamery, a movie theater, billiards,
Mhm.
hotels, restaurants, everything. Now there's like nothing there.
Hmm.
Um, but he was well-respected businessman because he was also part of the fire department. He was on the farm bureau. He was on the school board. His brother, and his father helped build the Lutheran church. So very religious family. So very well-respected. And again, like I said, he died in the house as well. And I think that's why he stays is because he just loves that house and the whole
Sure.
Yeah.
town and everything so much is that's why he continues to stay. But we also have always kind of had child activity too, and not so much on a 2-year-old level, but more. I always kind of felt like somebody who was like 8 and 11 years of age.
Huh.
And we don't know where they came from. We've been told that they just like being there. Um,
Hmm.
but we get, different EVPs of, that age sound of a child, versus like we've also got like little kid voices too. But you
Hmm.
can audibly hear kids sometimes laughing, running around, giggling. I've audibly heard adult voices in that house many times. So it's just really active, just a really fun
Right.
place. I think doing what we've done and have been doing it for so long, I think there is some sort of portal there
Sure.
that is bringing in the spirits. Plus, we're just doing it so much. I mean, Boyd has
Mhm.
just really grown in popularity, so it's been more busy. And I feel like a lot of other locations, same thing. That the more that you're doing that, you're more that energy you're putting in, and
Mhm.
that the spirits are coming through. Because I've gotten names of things, and they don't correlate it to my deed or any whatsoever. And some of them I've asked, and I'm like, do you live here? Or they're like, just passing through.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's just kinda interesting that we just get it's just a whole gamut. Again, nothing evil, bad, or malevolence or anything at the Boyd house. We have one crabby guy down in the basement, George. Um, he used to be really crabby with me, but now we're fine. We're
Yeah.
good.
It's funny. We're actually working on a case right now that's very similar where it's just starting out. And the thing that I always try to wrap my head around, and it is a concept that I think as you do this for a long period of time, you always worry about something called an egregore. You always worry about the people coming in constantly feeding an energy can create that energy. You can absolutely can create, whether it's a portal or however it's done. enough people believe it for so long, and they put that direction of energy at whatever it is. It has been known that it does cause some paranormal attachment that may not have existed prior. So it's very interesting. And you're right. A lot of the, the bigger pay to plays and all the bigger places, you'll find that it evolves, and there's all these different things that start coming into play.
Mhm.
But no, I find that incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I do too.
Well,
Yeah.
and then we've redone the house back to the 1900s too. So
Yeah.
we have a
Okay.
lot of antiques in the house that we've purchased. So there could be
Yeah.
some attachments there. Some of our dolls are supposedly haunted with spirit.
Sure.
Right.
So we have those
Sure.
there too. So I say
Yeah.
supposedly, but I can tell you some
Yeah.
of them are.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Right.
there's just, I mean, we've kind of put some things in there too, just to kind of heighten the activity level as well. So
Sure.
it's just been, and I just love that place. I just go there and I just spend all my time talking to them. I love buying them. I'm the only one, I swear, who shops for the dead. I'm always buying
You're not.
and
You're
gifts,
not.
so it's like people sometimes hear me like, "Oh my God, Fred and Minnie would love that." And they're probably thinking, "Oh, she's buying stuff for her grandparents." No,
Right.
I'm not.
That's that's awesome.
But yeah,
Uh,
we have like a shelf dedicated to like Minnie. So we like learned one of her great grandsons lives in town, so he told us a bunch of stories, which is really cool. Because those are things we're never gonna find in history books. So like we learned like
Yeah.
when she fell down the stairs and broke her arm. Like I've had things like she used to wait outside the window for Fred to come home, and when she saw him coming, she'd put the tea on real quick. So it was
Oh,
just little things that you would never get to know. But
right.
we
yeah.
learned that she loved ferns, and so we bought her a fake fern, and so she loves
Oh,
that fern.
that's
So
awesome.
Oh.
like we've put like a REM pod by it, and she really likes it. And one particular time I remember, this was like one of the coolest experiences. Teresa was in the kitchen and I was up. So her shelf is like by the stairwell. So we have all kinds of religious artifacts, and her fern is up there. So I was dusting, and as I picked up the fern and was wiping, I audibly heard something, but it was like an electronic voice where I didn't quite hear what they said, but I heard something. And my split second was, oh, Teresa must have turned on the spirit box. But I'm kind of thinking, well, she's cleaning in the kitchen. Why would she be turning that on? And this all happened in fractions of a second. She goes, what? What did you say? And I said, I didn't say anything. She goes, well, I heard you say, leave it. And I said, I
Huh.
was picking up the fern.
Oh.
So
Wow.
so then we just correlated with Minnie thought maybe I was taking
Sure.
it
Faking
and
it.
doing something where I was just really picking it up to clean it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I've heard women talking in there like it's like the old grates in the floor, so you can hear exactly what's going up and down on each
Oh yeah.
level.
Uh-huh.
And there was one particular morning, so all the girls were sleeping downstairs, and I was just sleeping up in the main bedroom. And I woke up, it was like 7 in the morning, and I was just, the sun was coming through, and I'm like, oh, this is really peaceful. It's kind of nice to wake up. And just sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard like women talking downstairs very
Hmm.
faintly. And I was like, oh, the girls are up. I guess I'll get up now. So I went
Mhm.
downstairs, and they're all sound asleep. There was not one person up.
Wild. Yeah,
That's really cool.
I mean, like we said, it is a well-known established place, and there's no shortage. I mean, if you look up on YouTube, I mean, you've had, several the YouTubers come out there, and there's no shortage of evidence out there. Some of which I'm sure is, up for debate, and some of it maybe not. Everybody gets different interpretations of things, but
Right.
but some of the evidence that you've caught that you sent us, it was very interesting because, and one in particular, and we'll get to it here in a second, but the card on the table, um, how'd you end up catching that? Because we kept staring at the card, and then of course something else falls, and we thought for a second, wait, what was that? So
It's like, is that an orb? Is
yeah,
that like a bug? I
yeah,
couldn't tell. I had to watch it like 3
right,
times.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things. So what we learned, Minnie likes cards. She likes to
okay,
gamble. She likes to play cards. But I actually saw uh, another paranormal team do it first. Is they actually played the game of 21 with K2 meter. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, interesting. So I
Okay.
started doing that. And so when they want to hit, they hit the K2 meter. And let me tell you, they play really well. They really do.
Holy crap, that's
Really?
awesome.
So, and I can see the cards, I have to look at them and stuff. So I
Yeah.
have so, but it's like they're giving me the instructions whether they want to hit or not. It's even been to the point where I ran a spirit box during it one time. I said, well, what do you want to do? You want to stay? You want to hit? What do you want to do? And it was plain as day said, we'll stay. So yeah,
That's so
they
cool.
really enjoy the cards and they like playing cards. So a lot of people go down there and play cards with them, and I think they
Sure.
like that. But that night we had a rent pot on the table. It was going on and off a lot, so we were getting a lot of interaction on there. But I had taken that one card and I had pushed it right to the edge, not over the edge, not even hanging. It was just one card directly to the edge. And I kept saying, gosh, if you guys had real fun tonight, if you really had a good time, you just whip that right off the table there. That'll let me know that you had a good time. We'll keep doing this for you. And then, I said that every time I came down. Then I said it again the last time before I went to bed. And it was about a half hour after I went to bed, and we had left a camera sitting on that table, and that card went shooting off.
So
So
cool.
Wow.
let me tell you, when I came down in the morning and I saw it on the floor, I was jumping up and down. I was like,
Yeah, I bet.
and I thought, gosh, I hope I caught that on film. So,
Yeah, I know.
you
That's
know,
always the scare. Like I didn't catch it.
That's the real fear. Everybody says you're scared of the ghost. No, I'm not scared of that. I'm scared of, did I actually catch the damn thing?
right. And I was using one of my old school cameras so that I had the old tape in it. So after 4 hours, she's done. So I was like,
Wow.
Right,
oh,
yeah.
please, let's hope that.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, that was a great catch.
It really was.
Mhm.
And then of course the one that's really evident is the shadows in the hallway by that piano. That's again, that's one of those
That's a
shadows that's
great
just,
one,
you
yeah.
pick up right away. There's absolutely no second guessing what that is. Were you guys doing an active investigation, or was that just a camera that you had running?
Actually, that was sent to me by the NOPS paranormal team, so the Northern Outer Realm paranormal team. They had actually captured that, so they just left that camera running. And to me, it looks more like those pre-adolescent children, is because it was like 1
Yes.
and 2. That's the thought I got of it. And I've had people like, "Oh, it's car headlights." Well, you don't know how my house is set up, and there's absolutely 100% no way car headlights. That's in the kitchen. There's not even a window in there. There is one window, but it faces the opposite direction, so the car lights would have had to go that way if it
Okay.
was. So yeah, you probably wouldn't anyway because we got a bunch of trees right there. So,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
the fact that I do know how the house is set up, and there is absolutely no way. And a lot of people do see shadows in the kitchen. They do see a lot of activity in that hallway. My teammate, one time I was on the phone with my husband, and she was in the living room, and she was just kind of messing with equipment, and all of a sudden she starts screaming, shadow person, shadow person. And I'm like, what? And she's like, she's like, a black shadow just peeked around the door frame to see what was
Wow.
going on. But we'll get a lot of people getting that type of evidence. Like, it's real active around the stairs. We have that split staircase. It goes up one way, up the other, and then it meets in the
Right.
middle, and then you go up.
Yep.
So yeah, just a lot of different activity. My husband actually, which I was jealous of because he's not really a ghost guy, and I've never seen an actual full body apparition, and he did.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah. So he was like coming in the house carrying a box, and he looked up at the stairwell, and at the top he said there was a woman with long brown hair, kind of like you. She looked like you for just a split second. I looked away, I looked back, she's gone. So
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
oh, you finally got to see her. But then just interestingly, it was just we were just there a couple weeks ago, and he sleeps downstairs. He's just more comfortable sleeping. So he was actually sleeping in Fred and Minnie's. Well, originally their bedroom was upstairs, but as they got elderly, they moved
Sure.
downstairs. So
Yeah.
the piano room was their bedroom where they both passed away. So he sleeps in there, and he woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning with heavy, heavy perfume smell. Like, he said it
Interesting.
was so pronounced, it woke him up out of a dead sleep. He thought, "Gosh, she must have a Glade air freshener." That's what he kept telling us, that she must have
Like
one of those.
flowers. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, like, and he said he
Mhm.
got up and he sniffed all the blankets, he sniffed everything, because the night before we had, like, 3 ladies that were there, so he thought, well, maybe their perfume's lingering, right? But he couldn't find anything. Then he kind of tried to settle down. About a half hour later, it happened again. And
Huh.
he's just like looking around. He's like, he doesn't hear anyone. He doesn't see anyone. But he goes, it was so pronounced. And I said, well, you were sleeping in a room. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, get out of here.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing a lot of people forget. Perfumes in those days
We're very
were very
floral.
floral because they were made from actual flowers.
Right.
They were quite pungent. I mean, they really stuck. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's that's just wild. And kudos to him for getting to see the full body.
I know.
The
It
grail,
always
as they
happens to
say.
those
Yeah,
that
it's-
don't really care about it.
yeah,
yeah.
I've seen
That's-
shadows. I've seen that. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen like a full body apparition. So I would really like to see one.
Yeah.
Well, I
you've
don't
only
know. I don't
Same
know
here.
I mean, I don't know how I'd react. I always say I'd be like, "Oh, it's really cool," and then I'm like, "Well, it might happen so fast that you can't react." Or would I
well,
turn
and I would
around?
imagine that
I don't know. I mean, I put boundaries too when I like go to Boyd House and stuff. I'm like, I love you guys, but nobody ever just let me open my eyes when I'm in bed and you're there. Don't ever do that to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, they
That's
don't.
not cool.
They don't. There's been times when I'm there by myself, like I have to go by myself, and I don't like it per se, but those are the days where I'm like, don't bother me today. I'm going to talk to you all day, but I don't want to hear you. I don't want to see you. We're going to be neutral today.
Right.
Yeah.
There's been times too when I've been there and I'm like working in the bathroom or something and I can hear the footsteps coming up the stairs and I'm the only one here. And I'm like, not today, guys, not today. And they
Mhm.
do respect me and they don't do it.
Well, that's
So that's-
good.
A little
Yeah.
quid pro quo. I mean, that you kind of need that for
Well, especially in the bathroom. That's like always my thing. I'm like, if I'm in the bathroom, this is an off limits
right.
space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that particular time was wallpapering. So yeah, we were just doing some work in the bathroom and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the evidence that I always that just it's amazing is the rocking horse. Now, there, like I said, there's tons of evidence out there, and there's some that are, really, really captivating. But this one, if you know these horses, and I would imagine not having been there, the attic doesn't have a ton of airflow. Most of them typically don't, especially at an older home. Usually they're pretty known for being stuffy and always cold as you know what in the winter and hot as you know what during the summer. Is that pretty similar to what you guys
Oh yeah,
have?
you got a very brief window where you can go up there and be comfortable.
Right,
Right, yeah.
exactly. So the evidence that you sent us, and again, we're going to play it here, but you see the rocking horse go back and forth, and it's not like it's just a nudge. It's a full rock.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys catch that, or was that another team that caught it and sent
that
it?
was another team that sent that to
Right.
me. I have seen that rocking horse move, but it's never been to the effect that particular group sent me. It very, very gently and stuff. But we do get a lot of things that do move in the house. Dolls will move. We've had like a ball get rolled down the stairs. Not all the time, but several groups, and then they'll go put it back up there, and then it'll come back down again. It's like on those days they're
Wow.
like having a lot of fun. But I've put balls up there on days and it's the same ball because everybody seems to find my red ball that they seem to use around the house. So I'll even use the same ball and it doesn't necessarily go down the stairs for me. So it's just on whatever given day, what kind of
Sure.
energy they have.
Mhm.
It's like any place, if they don't like you, they're not going to interact with you either.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
And if they just don't have the energy that day,
Mhm.
there's a whole lot of different factors on that. Because I've
Oh,
gone there where
yeah.
it's like dead, nothing happens, and gone there's where it's like, oh my god, could you guys just stop?
Yeah.
It's full moon.
Yeah. And intention is such a big part of it
Yeah.
too. You got some people that go in there and they're very A type people, and they kind of it can rub, especially some of maybe the older entities that are from a different time that just didn't really, that's not how they conversed in their time. So sometimes when you walk in there, and if you're a little bit of more of an alpha person, it can cause that sideways energy, and it may not have anything to do with you. I've seen it to where we have gone in there quietly, done the whole investigation, try to be as respectful, and we got some pretty good evidence.
Mhm.
Whereas the same place, and we love them to death, a great team, but they had a different type of energy. They came in there very, very upbeat, very, they just had a different energy. and they got nothing. So I think it just really depends on intention and
The personality
right,
of
the
the people that are
personality.
there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's good advice to have, to if you're getting into it or if you've been doing it forever, sometimes you just need to realize that if you're going into a house like the Boyd house or like I don't know, like McIntyre or something like that, these are older homes. They're gonna have older, very potentially older entities. So, their way of getting along is gonna be different than yours. So.
Right. And we've done some stuff where we've learned like Minnie doesn't like swearing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which of course they didn't swear back in the day. Now
Right.
it's part of our everyday language. It's not even really a swear word. It's just words.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But to them it's more like,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
How dare you in my home?
and
Yeah.
I've watched videos of people, and it's not necessarily they're yelling at the ghost, but even just talking amongst themselves, they're F this,
Mhm.
F that,
Right.
and I'm like, and my thought is, I'm like, Minnie's not gonna like this. So
No.
it's
No.
like,
Yeah.
Well, and it's an Airbnb, right? You guys actually do function as an Airbnb.
No, not technically.
Okay.
We're not listed as, on the Airbnb websites, anything like that. So we are primarily for paranormal investigation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say
not,
that might be
not that anybody can rent it. We're not going to be like, oh, you're not a paranormal team, you can't come in. So actually, we actually have provided some basic equipment because we do have a lot of people that are really curious about it and they want to come
sure.
spend the night. It's a good place. It's a fun place. It's got electric.
Mhm.
It's got all the comforts of home. We provide snacks. People love that.
So
And,
cool.
so we give them some basic things like a K2 meter. We got a motion light, a voice recorder. We got a spirit box. Just a few little things for them to, spirit balls. We got like a little mini REM pod device, and then we got a little book that goes along that tells you how it works and what it does.
So awesome.
So it's
That's
just a
really
little bit
cool.
of a few things that people can do or there because as as an investigator, even with all your hundreds and millions of dollars and things of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing might be happening, and so you're twiddling your thumbs.
Yep.
So, this at least gives somebody something to do when they don't
Yeah.
really understand how investigating goes, and if they're lucky, something will go off, and that'll be super fun for them,
Right.
to get
Absolutely.
that type of interaction. So, yeah, I mean, we've had, families come with it and bring their children,
That's
and,
awesome.
so it's like I'm fine with that as long as, with their guardian and things like that,
Right.
they understand, that this isn't just, any old place.
Right.
Right. Right.
It comes with some nuances you wouldn't
Right,
necessarily get
right.
at
And I've
else.
never heard anything like, "Oh my god, my kids were terrified and, they got attacked and they got possessed," or, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything's just been really good positive stuff that's come out of the
For
house.
sure. And honestly, that seems to sort of be a lot of the stories that you get. Of course, there's going to be, like you said, you got a crabby person in the basement. Well, if you're an a-hole in life, you might be an a-hole as a ghost.
Right.
And maybe you just need to,
They were
get
still people,
there's still
and
people.
people are
Right.
different.
And
Right.
sometimes,
Yeah.
like you said, you got to kind of build a rapport and
Mhm.
go through that effort. And if you show that effort, obviously it's going to reciprocate. So, no, that's amazing. Yeah, what a great amount of info.
I know. I know.
Um, so what's next? I mean, you've got the two properties, and kind of getting wrapped up on this. I want to make sure our audience knows one how they get a hold of you, or how do they get to go to the two properties, and sort of what that looks like, and how they can kind of reach out to you.
Yeah, you can the Masonic Lodge, you can find us both on Facebook, both Boyd House and the Masonic Lodge. But the, um Lodge, you can find us at haunted1861masonic.com. That's got our website, so it's got a little bit of information as far as a little bit of history, but how to make a reservation to spend the night. And then Boyd House is boydhouse217.com. And then again, a lot of information there. We're actually doing a paranormal convention at the Boyd House this September 27th. So we got a
Hmm.
lot of different special guests. Adrian Lee's coming, with different psychic and mediums and just all kinds of different workshops. We got an animal psychic there too. So it's going to be
Oh, cool.
a lot of fun. So we're
Huh.
just doing it that and all that information's at the boydhouse217.com.
That's
for you to get
fantastic.
tickets and the links to Eventbrite and stuff like that. So
That's amazing.
That's going to be a great event.
Yeah, it really will.
Mhm.
And great that you guys are providing some equipment. You go to some of these places and you're right. There's thousands of dollars of stuff that you go there with, and then a what $10 a $2 cat ball,
Yeah.
or
It's
some
usually the basic stuff.
yeah,
that
just
gets
this
you.
basic thing, and you're like, I literally have a $2,000 device right next to it, and this cat ball's getting all the action, and the other thing's nothing.
yep.
It's amazing. But
Mhm.
well, listen, thank you so much for coming on. We had a great time. I think that we definitely are going to want to go to these
Yeah.
places. I'm really interested in going to both, of course, because Boyd is, I want to be able to take a look at it, obviously with all the other evidence everybody else is collecting.
Just a longer road trip.
Right,
for
just a
us.
longer road trip. The Masonic Lodge is within striking distance,
Yes,
so
it
that's
is. Mhm.
something we may be reaching out on because
Yeah, for
with it
sure.
being
We'd love to
somewhat
have you.
new, yeah, I would love to come. And with it being new, maybe we can go out there and just kind of get our feel for it
Mhm.
and see what we come up with. But yeah, fantastic. But yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
Awesome. We'll see you later.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks, Jill, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Jill.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Again, owning two. First of all, if you own two, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know people that own
Why
two.
stop at 2?
Own
Go to
10.
50.
Well, come on, 50?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
50 would be cool.
Yeah, if you have that kind of resources, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think with the amount of money we spent on gear, we probably could afford one. But yeah, she was a lot of fun. With the Boyd House, it's a pretty well known hot spot. It's a well known place.
Yeah.
But I'm super interested to check out that Mason Lodge.
I am too, because the EVPs that they got, especially
Mm-hmm.
that child one, that when they say, "Can you do that again?"
Yeah.
and it says, "That's crazy."
Yeah. Can't say that it would. And
Yeah.
it's so weird how they
It's
do
so
it.
clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
And it speaks of like a different time period.
Right, I was about to say it's period correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's what kids today would say.
Right. Or something with less English in it.
Yes. Can't say that I would.
Yeah.
It's very like British.
Hello, can't say that I would.
Yeah.
That was terrible, by the way, and I apologize.
And there may not be but you know what I mean? Like that old,
Right.
the way they would respond.
Everybody has a different cadence from whatever era they're in.
Yeah.
Can't
say that I would.
Can't say that I would.
It's
Why
so
did I keep
interesting.
doing the English accent? I don't know.
I think of like a little English boy, from
Right.
London or something with his
Well,
little
yeah,
hat.
a very proper,
Yeah.
a little hat. All right.
With his little brown, little brown vest.
Yeah, like the newsboys, kind
Yep.
of the newsies.
That's what I see when I hear
That's
that.
good. That's
That'd be
awesome.
cute.
No, it's great, and I really do. And again, Boyd House, 100%. I mean, don't
Oh yeah, yeah.
don't get me confused. We'd love to do the Boyd House, but I think the fact that the Masonic Lodge has been vacant for so long,
Yeah.
it kind of it's that first kind of getting things going and
Those are the best because not a million people have been there already,
right.
And it's like you get to discover new things.
Mm-hmm. And the worst part, and it's something that you even tell me don't do, and sometimes I got to listen to you because I do it. But if we're going to a place that's very well known, I'll start popping something on YouTube.
And I'm like, don't do that
Right.
because it messes with
It gives you a preconceived notion,
yeah.
right? And it's true. It's true. You look at things like, Conjuring House and all these other places where there's so much content out there.
Oh yeah.
Where
can
you're just
definitely sway.
right. Yeah, exactly. And it's always cool to see a place that's not, and you can kind of not necessarily put your own stamp on it because it's not about owning something. It's just about being able to be some of the first boots on ground, if you will, to kind of.
Knowing the history is important.
Right.
Like that's the only time I'll like maybe turn on something that they have the history at the very beginning, but then I turn it off.
Right.
Like once that's done, I've gotten, but then I go and look it up and make sure it's
Sure.
accurate because sometimes it's not accurate. But that's good to know, because then if you get something with a name that associates with the history, and I try not to use the names right
Right.
at first, because
You never
then
know.
that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. But it's just kind of exciting to be,
Yeah.
when it's kind of new like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, tell us what you guys think. Leave comments, those sort of things. You do. It's okay. Leave us comments. I'm just kidding. Most are really nice. But yeah, just leave some comments. Tell us what you think. It was a lot of fun. And we're really kind of ramping up some really cool stuff coming up, guys. It's going to be a great end of this season. Mm-hmm. So we're getting pretty excited. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.